Howdy, hi, and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in yet again with another new episode. Today, we have a gentleman by the name of Dane Palarino. Palarino? Is
Yeah,
that
you
right?
got
Yeah,
it.
cool. Dane is a pretty jacked dude who obviously has had some education in the world of the health and fitness industry, and also obviously in the entrepreneurship world. So we're here to learn a little bit about the health, the fitness. How do you fight the dad bod that all these girls are loving, but at the same time not? And then how do we make money? So Dane, thanks for having us on. Thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, man. Super stoked to be here.
So Dane, where did you start with the idea, of fighting the dad bod?
Well, it started from a place of pain, honestly. I didn't know I had a dad bod until I went to do a transformation contest with a company called Orange Theory Fitness, and
Yeah.
they were like, "Hey, we're going to do this transformation contest. Like, it's going to be 8 weeks long." And I had been doing this class for like 6 months, and I was getting better. And they make you wear a bracelet when you train, and so my numbers were getting better in the class. So I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing really well." And then they decided to do this transformation contest, and they took a picture of me. And honestly, I looked like an eggplant. I was like, "There's no way I look like that." And I realized I had accumulated this world class dad bod, and I was extremely angry about it. So that
World
was
class dad bod.
that was kind of where I became aware of the problem. And then when I identified that, okay, this body was obviously not one that I was comfortable in. I didn't even know I really was carrying this around because I was wearing baggier clothes and wasn't really, you know, into vanity. Wasn't looking at myself, wasn't taking a lot of selfies, but then I had kind of had this ability to look back and be super aware of the last couple of years. And I realized this is the core of why I'm unhappy. And I should be happy. I was successful in my headhunting business. I had a beautiful wife that was committed to me, and I was committed to her. We had two healthy young kids, three and a newborn, but I wasn't happy. And then when I saw that body, I realized maybe this has something to do with it. And so that's where the idea of I need to fix this body and get into one that I was more comfortable with kind of started.
That's a hell of a wake up call. I mean, I think it's a wake up call that a lot of us see or like can recognize, but then never really like take action on, And
Yeah.
so the fact that you like, all right, we gotta we boil this down to, all right, I'm unhappy, so you have to recognize that you're unhappy.
Yeah.
Kind of take a second to look around and say, all right, well, it's not all these other things. Making money, have a nice wife, have a family, and so what is it? I guess the last option here is going to be the dad bod, which is, I think it takes a little bit of introspection. I like it. So then, where did you start? So then now we realize, man, I'm fat and I'm not happy. So now what do I do?
That was pretty much it, man. The first step is being aware of the problem. So I was aware of the problem, and then I was aware that, damn, I was not showing up for my wife the way I needed to. This is why I had a lot of insecurities in my marriage. This is why a lot of fights were happening in our marriage at the time. This is why I was irritated by my kids a lot, and I realized, damn, this is all because I'm not happy with myself. And I knew if I was embarrassed with myself, they were most likely embarrassed of me. And whether my kids were still a little bit young to be embarrassed of me, but I knew as they aged, they were going to see that, hey, I wasn't exactly as put together as I had portrayed myself to be. And I wanted to have these standards for them because I had always been a man of standards, but I had dropped those standards in my own health and fitness area. I had kept them in my business, but that was about it. So I had all these bad habits that I was aware of. So I started realizing, all right, I have to fix this problem because at the time, dude, I was still training an hour a day. I was fasting, I was on a fasting protocol for 16 hours. So I was like, I'm not eating the damn food. I'm still going to the gym. Like, why don't I look the part? And so I realized I need to find a solution that worked with my busy schedule and that was going to allow me to actually change my body composition. And so I went through all the research and I looked at everything that didn't work over the last couple of years and was like, I tried calisthenics, I tried keto, I tried paleo, I tried fasting. All this shit has not changed my body. It's actually produced this terrible frame that I'm in. Let me go back to the basics and figure out who's the best in the world at sculpting bodies. And so the research began at that, right? That was the question of who's the best in the world at this. And I realized that it was bodybuilders. This was what they did for a living. So my nights were consumed with really just going deep into the style of training that these guys were doing, the style of eating, the habits that they had, how much it consumed their life, how I can incorporate some of those things into my life as a busy dad. I had no intentions of being an influencer or an online coach or a bodybuilder. I just wanted to adapt some of those habits into my life and see if they would become sustainable so that they were more of a lifestyle for me as opposed to one of these short-term fads where I lose 15 and then I gain back 30, because that had been the cycle. And a lot of guys go through that cycle. And I was blessed enough where my headhunting business actually was doing really well. And so I had the time at night to kind of invest in this information. So I started there, man. I started looking at what was optimal training for men over 35 because I was losing muscle mass by the minute. What was optimal nutrition that was going to actually give me the physique that I wanted, but also give me the energy that I needed to run my business, to show up for my kids at night, to be available to my wife when I wanted. And that's where I started really kind of just going into that discovery phase. And then as I did that, I started applying it in my life.
And what did you discover exactly that really made the difference? I mean, if you already knew all these things, back to the basics, these are things you've already been introduced to.
Yeah.
What weren't you doing that you maybe relearned or retaught yourself?
The basics. That was really it. So I had been so confused over the years with all the different styles of eating and the different styles of training between calisthenics and body weight and HIIT style and low intensity and powerlifting and CrossFit, all this shit, right? But none of them gave me the body I wanted. So I just went back and said, okay, hypertrophy style training. That is a style of training that is progressive overload. So I can go deeper in that area. I can stay passionate there. I won't be done with that program in 3 months. That's forever and ongoing. So that's something that lines with I want to go deep and have something that's sustainable and long term. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go hypertrophy style training and I'm going to do progressive overload within that, right? I just have to get better. And I only had 25-pound dumbbells at the time. COVID had hit. And so that was all I had. And I picked those things up. And I remember back in the day, I had done this style of training and it had given me my best physique ever, like early in my 20s. And I was like, damn, these are a lot heavier than I thought, And I was like, step one, like do what you can with these every day for 15 or 30 minutes until they become light. And eventually the gyms will open up and I'll be able to kind of hit the ground running. So first step was, getting back to basics and lifting weight and focusing on progressive overload through that style of basic hypertrophy style training. The second step was once I was doing that style of training, I realized, okay, my body's not going to change if I don't figure out the right style of eating. And eating the things that I was eating in my 20s doing this style of training wasn't necessarily going to work anymore. I had to be a lot more disciplined and focused and consistent with the things I was putting in my body. And so then I started the research around, all right, how many meals can I eat in a day? Of those meals, what do my macros need to be? How much fat, how much protein, how much carbs? Which ones does my body respond to better now? Because I was totally inflamed, bro. Like I had autoimmune issues. I had inflammation all throughout my body. I had skin rashes because I was drinking IPA beers. I was eating a lot of sugar. So there was a lot of shit going on that I was starting to recognize had come from this bad lifestyle that I was leading. So when I started to stop doing a lot of those things and start putting in the right things, those are the first two things that I did, which I focused on a very specific style of training in the gym when I went there. I was super intentional. And then two, I set up a meal plan for myself, making sure like, hey, that I was going to, every 3 or 4 hours, I was going to put the right foods into my body. And then slowly but surely over 90 days, I'd lost like 18 pounds and gone from like 30% body fat down to like 18%. And everyone was like, wow, you look totally different. And so I had this mini transformation happen in a relatively short period of time.
That's a lot of decrease. You went from 30 to 18. Is that what you said in 3 months?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about let me think about this out loud. So I guess in science or like through research, they say like half a percent to 1% a week. That's 12 weeks. So you lost. You're on a pretty rapid pace there. How were you able to maintain that pace, or how were you able to achieve that pace? I mean, it sounds like all the simple things are simple and helpful.
Simple,
but
not easy.
those are also insane results given a large body of research. So what do you attribute the excessive amount of success towards?
One, I had some muscle memory because I had been lifting for a while. So, and then two, I had discipline. When I stopped putting all these things in, like guys come into the program, in my program, and they lose on average 26 to 30 pounds in 12 weeks. And they're like, I never thought it would come off this fast. I'm like, you'd be amazed at how your body responds when you stop putting the wrong shit into it and you start putting the right things into it. And then you couple it with strategic exercise, things start to work again really well, especially if you've trained somewhat in the past or you've been training, just not getting the results. So for me, my goal was like, not so much to focus on a physical thing, but focus on habits. It was like, I can't control how quickly or how slowly my body responds. So I didn't plan on, I need to lose 1% of body fat every week for the next 12 weeks. Like, that wasn't my goal. My goal was like, I need to stop these bad habits and I need to change my lifestyle. And so that was getting into a position of controlling the controllable. So I set up these 5 daily non-negotiables that were healthier habits for me. And so my goal was, if I could do these 5 habits every day, I'm going to be able to show up for myself, and that's going to give me the confidence that I need. And the body, I know, will surely but slowly start to come around for me. And so that was really how I approached it. It wasn't so much like I was like super analytical, like I need to lose this and do this. It was like I knew it was probably going to be a 3-year journey for me to put the muscle on my body that I wanted to get. Like, I had a vision of what I wanted to look like, right? Much like I look now. Like that, I was like, this is who I want to be. Well, my kids are 8 and 5 years old, right? Like, I want to be this for them. I don't want to be this fucking dude. So I was like, I need to kill this guy. In order to do that, I need to install better habits. And this was what I did. So part of that was like, I was staying up late. I was eating sugar. I was drinking alcohol. So first one was like, pull that shit out, right? Pull out the sugar, pull out the alcohol, go to bed earlier. So I set up this nighttime routine that allowed me to go to bed earlier. Second thing I did was I need to wake up earlier, right? Like, swap that habit. You can't get rid of habits. You got to swap habits. I've noticed that. So the swapping of the habit was, instead of staying up late and eating bad, I'm going to focus on getting up early, which meant I had to do better things at night. So first thing was kind of getting up early. And when I got up early, I then had a lot of time, and that negative self-talk would come in, right? Because I was in this negative, insecure place. So I started focusing on, right, working on my mind, like reading for 10 minutes a day. Andy Frisella at the time was doing this 75 hard that was like taking off. So he had this principle in there that was read for 10 minutes a day. So I was like, that's it. If I could just commit 10 minutes a day to reading the right information first thing in the morning and don't let my thoughts get out of control, like, I can control the controllable there. So it was like, bam, I'm going to read for 10 minutes. And then the third thing was, now I'm going to go get that workout in, because I knew every time I trained, I elevated my vibration. I was a completely different person when I finished that training, whether it was 15 minutes or 2 hours. I was always different. So the third thing I did was, I'm going to train first thing in the morning, 7 fucking days a week, no excuse, right? Like, you need to make this a habit of yours. And I wasn't ever to go like 100% every 7 days, because some days the body was sore, but I still showed up for myself. And then that led into, okay, now you did the training. Now you're going to make sure that you execute meal by meal. So for me, it was about setting up these micro goals. Like, so I had guardrails, right? Like, so every 4 hours I had a meal planned and it was scheduled into my calendar. And every time I hit that meal, it was like my shoulders went back a little bit, my head went a little higher. It was like, all right, man, you hit it. You know, like I hadn't been tapping myself on the back with W's for years, right? In my personal life. It just slowly been dropping that standard. So it was like, by noon, I had like 4 or 5 W's, and every day. And so the last one was, eventually I sustained from weed and from alcohol, which I had noticed I was keeping those in occasionally, but every time I did, man, the old guy came back. And so those eventually became my 5 daily habits that I live by. And I had the master plan, and all I worked on was mastering that plan.
So those 5, again, just to repeat back, just so I make sure I understand correctly, and then also summarize for those that are listening. So you started waking up early. You replaced the habit of staying up late, waking up late with waking up early. No weed and alcohol. A meal every 4 hours.
Yep.
A workout a day every morning.
Yeah.
And a missing one.
Reading, putting the right information in your body. Yeah.
And the reading.
Yep.
Cool, man. I mean, that sounds like again, like the basics.
Super simple.
But at the same time, it seems that it's harder and harder for people to get to do those things. So what was stopping you from doing those things when you were you're making money, you're feeling good, your headhunting business is going well?
Yeah.
I mean, with all this money, you're like, oh, well, I have more freedom, right? So that means I can drink more maybe, or I can eat better. What were those things that were limiting you? I know obviously the counters are part of the 5 goals that you set up for yourself, but there's something deeper in there within the head that's just like, are you not good enough for this? You don't deserve this. The work's too busy. Like, what was inside of your head that was getting you to not even entertain those other goals?
Yeah, being super comfortable, man. When you get successful and money starts flowing in, you get really comfortable and you don't want to be uncomfortable because now you work so hard to get comfortable. And so financially, I was doing the best I had ever done. I had spent 10 years building these firms to get to this place. So I got super comfortable and started justifying my behavior at night. Like, oh, I worked really hard, so I deserve the beer. Oh, I worked really hard, so let's enjoy a nice meal together. Hey, we didn't see each other all day, so let's have a movie and some cake and some ice cream. And so these little compromises that I started to make in my personal life started dropping my standard, and that was impacting my health and fit and my health dramatically. And so what I realized was I was feeding myself the wrong things, and as I was feeding myself these things, they were having a direct impact on the way that I saw myself, the way that I thought, the way that I believed. And I didn't realize this for a long time, right? But I started to notice I doubted myself a lot more in every other area but business. I was way more insecure in my relationship than I had ever been. I was a lot more irritable with my children and short with my wife than I had ever been. And a lot of these things I didn't realize until I pulled them out were because of the foods that I was putting in and the liquor that I was consuming. So then I realized like I need to get comfortable being uncomfortable because when I'm uncomfortable, I'm living my best life, but uncomfortable in a conscious way, right? I was uncomfortable by being comfortable. So what I mean by that is I was saying, nah, I'm going to be comfortable. So we're going to have a beer at night. I'm not going to exercise. I'm not going to get up early. We're going to reward ourselves for this success that we have, right? But that had a direct unconscious impact on me because I became uncomfortable in my own skin. And living that life was extremely painful. Like I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. And I know a lot of men suffer from it. It's a silent pain that we all have. And our wives generally don't know about it because we're not being super vulnerable with them. Like, hey, I'm insecure. It just comes out in all these other ways. So putting on clothes was uncomfortable. Having to get dressed to go out was uncomfortable. All these things because I didn't like the body I was in. But if I switch that mindset again, like swapping the habit, and I said, I'm going to get up early because I don't want to get up early. I want to sleep late, right? But I'm going to get up early. I want to sustain from alcohol, even though I want to escape at night. But I have nothing to escape for. I need to show myself that I'm living a life that I don't need to escape. So that's why I sustain from the weed and the alcohol, right? So when I put myself in a position to consciously be uncomfortable, my vibration would elevate because I did things that I didn't want to do. And once I did them, it was like, yeah, you did it. Like you're doing what you said you wanted to do. And I was able to look myself in the mirror more. I was able to approach my wife in a desiring way more, like take the lead there. I was able to lead my children with confidence and say, hey, you need to do this, and this is why, and this is who you're going to be. And I had recognized like, yeah, like I was super embarrassed of who I was. And I had known like, they're probably going to be embarrassed of me at some point. And I had moments with my parents where I was embarrassed of them. I loved them for a lot of the heart that they had, but there were moments where it was like, damn it, they embarrassed me. They had some shit that I wasn't proud of and that they just didn't hold the standard for in their own life. So I decided like I'm going to start raising that standard in my own life and getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And in doing that, bro, it really made me elevated me like every day. And I don't know if you believe in vibrational planes, right? But like what you frequently see is how you vibrate. And if you're vibrating at a lower frequency, you're generally seeing fear, negativity, you're attracting more of that. But when I put myself through a hard workout and I ate my meals with discipline every day, and I know that I got up early and I did those 5 things, at night I was such a different person. I didn't need to escape from that person. I didn't need anything to escape from. I was the person that I had always needed the most. And that's what I essentially decided that I was going to do is I was going to create the person I needed the most on my journey. And that was somebody that got comfortable being uncomfortable.
Do you think that the family recognized that you were making these decisions?
My family,
Yeah.
yeah, my wife and kid, yeah, they did. My sons were younger at the time, but I did this same routine for 2 years. And my wife had started to notice, and because I wasn't like gonna explain to her, hey, I'm really insecure and these are the reasons, but I had just kind of said like, yeah, I'm gonna go fix this. I'm gonna make these changes, and I'm just going to start showing up as a different person, because a lot of the fights that had happened with me and her, and a lot of the arguments and the bickering, I had recognized like I'm the common denominator. Like all of this stemmed from something that I was trying to deal with, and I was putting it on her. So I was like, this isn't going to be her problem to fix. This is my problem to fix. So I'm going to go fix this. And one day she's going to recognize I'm a different being. So she started to recognize that. Yeah. And the person, and nothing is more rewarding than when you see the way that your wife looks at you when you've kind of crossed over that bridge. It's like the way that she was proud of me and wanted to speak about me. You know, she wanted to hold my hand and own me in public, where some of those things weren't necessarily present when I was living in that other version of myself. And then with my kids, now the timeline is one was 3, one was under 1, right? So they weren't aware of this. But 2 years later, after I had put the grind in and the work had been there, you know, I was getting recognized in public, and people were always asking me about my biceps, or, hey man, save some muscles for the rest of us, like little comments. And my kids would start to pick up on like that people were treating me differently, right? And so like a big moment was like we were at this water park, and these teenagers came up to us and they were like, "Are you Mr. Olympia?" And my sons had known about Mr. Olympia because I had been watching all of those guys' YouTube videos, right? And so the face that they had, like this moment of like pure pride, you know, like and that made me realize like, damn, I finally have arrived in this body that I just kind of put my head down and worked so hard for, and never kind of came up and said, good job. I'm executing the day, every day. And I'm showing up for myself. And then when the body actually came around, and their friends looked at me differently, and then they were proud of me, it made a big difference, man. I had finally recognized like, damn, I'm the hero to them, and in a good way. And now this is the new standard and the new bar that I raised. So yeah, it became a big part of our life, and how they treat me. Yeah.
I think there's no doubt that obviously you're very lean and obviously have a lot of muscle mass, a lot of lean mass. Did you have any exogenous support to help get you there? Any TRT or anything else like that?
Yeah, of course. So I no, I didn't for the first 3 years. So the first 3 years it was all natural. I just went super clean on my diet. I did all over the counter supplements, and then last year in May I jumped on TRT because I set a goal to do a classic bodybuilder competition in September. And so I hired a coach, and it was like, all right, I'm going to do this. You know, I got down to like 10% body fat. I was super comfortable, and I wanted to do that as a goal. So he had recommended like jumping on a bunch of different stuff. And I was like, no, I'm not going into all that, man. I was like, I just want to kind of, he's like, you're going to get killed, man. He's like, and at the time though, I was really starting to get a lot of aches and pains. I was training really hard. I was still training 7 days a week. So he's like, well, you should at least consider kind of getting your test levels run again. And let's see if TRT is an option. That'll help us hold on to some of this muscle as we put you in a huge deficit. So I went down that avenue. My test was not low, but it wasn't high. It was like 500. And so he said optimal was like 7. So I was like, all right, man, I'm going to jump on it. And I had recognized, I'd always encourage people like, don't just jump on it to jump on it. This was a lifestyle for me. I had committed to this lifestyle for 3 years. I was dialed in on my nutrition. I was dialed in on my training. All my habits were there. Everything was there. So then, bam, when I jumped on it, it had helped. Like my joints got a lot better. The aches and pains went away. And I was able to train and recover a lot better. So I've been on it for about a year and a half now, since last May.
Very nice. And then did you see the effects like vastly improve or change after you started taking the TRT?
No, I didn't. I did see the biggest where I recognized was like my joints weren't as sore anymore. It was like, all right, like they had been sore for a while. I recovered better. So I was able to train again, like with more intensity. But it wasn't like I started like traps out. It was like, it was such a low dose that it wasn't like this big move. It was like I was still trending, and I still trend the same way that I was trending then, like how I've added muscle mass. It's always been kind of this slow, gradual thing. So it helps build it, but unless you're shooting massive amounts of it, like it's not going to transform your body. You'll get an increased libido, you'll sleep a little bit better, you'll recover better, and you make better decisions when you're on it as well. Like when you realize, hey, I'm now doing this TRT thing. Like I'm really committed to this. Like I always tell people, if you think TRT is going to give you the body you want, go spend a day in a TRT clinic. 95% of those fuckers don't look like they're on TRT because they're not doing the other things properly, right? They're just injecting the TRT, but they're not eating right. They have no discipline. They're not training properly. They're not recovering properly. They're still drinking alcohol. So all they do is they have some benefits to it to get their test levels right, but their body isn't changing. You truly have to focus on those other pillars. When you got those dialed in and you realize you want to keep going, kind of make this a lifestyle, and your test is low, then I always recommend it's a good time to get on it.
I wonder, I think a lot of the conversation we're having is, whether fortunately or unfortunately, um, at least on my feed, very common, right? Like, I hear it all the time. You see David Goggins all the time. I will probably give a PSA. You probably shouldn't work out 7 days a week. And just to the audience, like 3 to 4 days a week, in my opinion, so far in my experience, worked out really, like really, really well. I was able to compete professionally,
Yeah.
um, doing 3 times a week, and so like now those sessions are like 3 or 4 hours long, so I get it. Like time also depends, but all of these things I think are very common. But I wonder how often people are like in general hearing this, like be get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's like the classic. I feel like I hear it like 30 times a day now,
Yep.
almost to the point where I'm like, okay, yeah, I fucking get it, like leave me alone now. But what, like, what does that, like, what does that mean? How is that just, like, salient to somebody's life? And how often do you think really people are like exposed to this sort of content?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's the it's not uncomfortable for me anymore, right? Like today, like I had to go do a leg workout this morning. It was like I really didn't want to get under heavy weight. I didn't want to push it. It was like, all right, but I know when I'm done with the workout, that's the feeling I want, right? Like the feeling that I had going in and the dreading of it. It was like I knew the workout that I had ahead. It was like, oh, but I knew I've done it long enough that my brain attached more pleasure to the other side of the workout, right? So for me, it's like there's ways that you're just rewiring your brain to like create a different association to the action that you need to take. So the waking up, like getting, if you were to say like get comfortable being uncomfortable, essentially what you're trying to say is understand that there's a consequence for you not getting up. If you attach more pain to that consequence, then you'll recognize that that's going to bring more pain to you by sleeping in than it is pleasure by getting that extra hour of sleep. So if you could train yourself to understand that, hey, when I get up early, that's a W I already have, right? That's a boy that I already put on my marker. Like you did something good already today to start your day. And a lot of what you need to do when you're in the position that I was in, from my experience, is you need to start building yourself back up again. The only way you can do that is through micro victories. And you're not going to get the body of your dreams tomorrow, but you can have the mindset of your dreams tomorrow. And so that's just kind of helping people understand that training and nutrition and the discipline that's there, they're small pieces of the puzzle, right? To the bigger game of understanding how to rewire your brain to kind of dominate your life. And the gym is for the mind and the kitchen is for the body, and that's a big thing of that I realized. Like the gym is really for the mind for me, right? And the kitchen is where the body is created. And so when you're able to attach that, then you get to a place, bro. Like all of my clients are like, the first couple of weeks it's so different in the habits, but by 30 days they're like, I love the consistency, I love the lack of decision fatigue that is in not in my life anymore. I love that everything is planned and scheduled. Like guys do really well with blueprints. Like the reason people like the army is because they don't have to make any decisions. You wear this uniform, you wake up at this time, you show up here at this time, you do this at that time. Like they love that rigidness. So if you can just create some sort of structure in somebody's life, and oh, by the way, they get a better physique from that structure, it allows them to elevate and become more successful in all the other areas that are important to them. This is just a tool that you use to get to a higher state of being, to elevate and advance your life in all the other areas that are important to you. So that's it. It's not this to go onto a bodybuilder stage or be an online coach or be an influencer. It's to use these tools in your life and in your daily routine to become a better person and a more productive person, and essentially be living a life that you want to be living.
All right, Dane. Well, I'm a new client, and I feel like I've been doing this for 4 months now, and I've seen a lot of progress, but this month I'm really down, man. Like I'm feeling like shit. Feel like I'm not making progress fast enough. You
Yeah.
know, I've lost 30 pounds in the last 3 months, which is great progress, but it's still not what I want to be at. So I feel like giving up, Dane. What do I do, Dane?
You sound like a client sometimes.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
there's always 10% that's that way. They want it so fast, you know. They forget that, like, it's taken me 3 years to get in this body, right? And every day I still am working at it. So it's like they have to be patient. I always explain to them, like, we have to have macro patience with micro urgency. And what I mean by that is you have to understand it takes a while to physically get that transformation. But if you have micro urgency with the things that you can control today, which is your intensity and your intentionality, right? So be intentional with the plan that you have. And you all have a plan, a nutrition plan, a training plan, a habit plan. Be intentional with executing each of those in that day, and then do it with intensity, right? Do it as if it's the only day that's available. There's not 7 days in a week. There's yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So be intentional. And when they go back to focusing on the habits and not the outcome, every single time they're elevated, every single time they're back in the game by 5 o'clock, right? It's like, damn, I feel good, dude. I woke up early. I did the reading. Had a great training session because I was intentional. I thought about it before I went in there. I made sure my meals were prepped. I ate them all online. Like, I'm winning again, right? And so that's taking control of the things that you can control. So when life hits you in the face, which it always does, right? You're much stronger and being like, hey, man, I can control how I respond to this. I can control how I react to this, right? I can't control what comes on my plate today. I can't control the next problem. I can't control the next unforeseen accident, but I can control how I respond to that. And what you're doing with your habits is building character and building fortitude in who you are. And it's not what you are, it's who you are, right? And you build that up through your habits. So essentially, we always go back to that with them. Win today, win the next meal. And if you do that, you're going to have 7 or 8 victories by the end of the day, and you're going to feel a hell of a lot better. And so that is, and then the body is a byproduct of that, bro. Like, the body comes around, and we measure it every single day, right? We measure it and we calibrate every week. So every week I show them, like, hey, there are days where you're going to be like this, but every week we're coming down, right? The body fat's coming down, the weight's coming down, the attitude's getting better, the energy's getting going up. Like, those are the things. It's not day to day. Like, the stock market's like this every day, but over 30 years, stock market's like this, right? So we can't focus on the day to day. We just got to focus on those habits. And so I bring them back and let them take control of that self talk.
That self talk can be a hell of a make it or break it, especially for new clients that maybe haven't ever, or maybe have experienced success in something in the past, and they're trying to experience, you know, they had some losses or some failures along the way, and now they're trying to regain their step. Every single small loss can seem like a pretty big deal in their heads, but in reality, you know, it's like, hey, that's kind of how this entire game goes. Whether you're in business or anything else, you're gonna have a loss every so often. You're gonna lose money on something.
That's right.
You're gonna have a day where, you know, your workout sucks ass and you don't want to do it again. But then, you know, you showed up and you adjust that workout in the middle of the workout, and you're like, man, I can't do 5 sets of 8 at, you know, 80%, but you know what, I can do 5 sets of 8 at, you know, 60%. And be
That's
like,
right.
shit, well, you showed up and you did something that's it's a hell of a win.
That's totally right, man. We have that. That's a lot of the big piece of the thing, like the accountability piece. Like, on my journey, I didn't hire a coach till like over 3 years, right? Until I was going to go do this bodybuilding comp. So I did it all myself. And there were a lot of times where eventually when I hired the coach, like, I wanted that accountability. I wanted somebody to care about the outcome as much as I cared about it. And on those days where I wasn't feeling it, I wanted somebody to check in and be like, hey, man, you got this. Pick your head up. This is part of the journey, right? And I never had that. So I made sure, like, when I built this program and this business, like, I was going to be that guy for them, right? And so recent example, I have a client that went from like 22% down to like 12% in the last 11 weeks. I don't know, not even like 10 weeks or something, right? And his goal was to get to under 15%. And he got there and he's been crushing it. He hasn't missed. And he got comfortable. It was his birthday week and he got comfortable with that success. He started eating a little bit more. He started drinking 3 or 4 days and bam, he gained 2% body fat. He gained like 5 pounds. And then he's beating himself up, right? So he parlayed those bad decisions into bad days. And then it's like, now all of a sudden he's doubting himself. Now all of a sudden his self-talk is coming. And he's like, and I'm like, bro, slow down. Like, we got to have grace. We have to have contrast sometimes in the journey to understand why we're doing this work. That yes, the results came, but we're not. If we just keep chasing those results, we're going to make decisions like you just made. I got the results now. Now I can splurge. Now I can get comfortable. But when you focus on just being the best version of yourself every day, and you focus on executing those habits, then you don't worry about that shit, right? There are going to be days where you miss, but there's also the mindset of, okay, I get another shot tomorrow, right? I get 5 meals tomorrow where I could execute right away. I get another early wake up tomorrow. And you got to have grace with yourself. And you look at it over the course of 30 days. Like, did I progress this 30 days? And this was just a setback. So it's really kind of being that voice for them. Because a lot of times, Ben, like, when people go on these journeys, the people in their circle aren't supporting them because they're losing somebody that they enjoy. They're losing a drinking buddy. They're losing, that partner that they did whatever they wanted to. Now all of a sudden they're eating differently and they're making different decisions, and it seems a little bit selfish. So once they kind of get down and they're down, man, now people are like, "Yeah, I told you, don't worry about it, bro. Like, let's parlay this into something worse." And they're waiting for that moment. So it's important to have somebody in your corner that's like, no, we're going to get right back up. We're going to keep moving forward. We're going to lean into that failure. And that's, I think, the most important thing is like having somebody that's there to say, like, I got you, right? Trust me, I've been there.
Shifting gears a little bit, I want to hear about how you're operating this business side. So, for the coaches, right? I'm a coach as well, and so I want to hear, exactly what your outreach looks like, and then going from headhunting into the online coaching space. What has that been for you? I guess we can start there.
Yeah. So the context is I spent over 10 years building two leading headhunting firms. The first one took me 7 years to build it into a 7-figure agency. And the second one took me 3 years to do that. And that was Palarino Partners. We became the leader globally in building world-class product management teams for hyper-growth SaaS companies. So we had larger companies like Indeed and Duolingo and some of the bigger tech companies. But mainly our bread and butter was companies that were sub 10, 5 million ARR, annual recurring revenue. And we built their heads of product, their VPs of product, their chief product officer, like their most mission critical role. But up until that point, I had been an outbound guy. I had built that business by calling out, but eventually my second business dominated Google. And so it became an inbound business. So I went from my whole career of 0 inbound leads to like 30 leads a month on a very high ticket sale solution service. And so that's what allowed me to build my world-class dad bod. And that when that started to kind of cash flow, it was like, oh, I worked 10 years for this, right? And that's where I got comfortable. So when I decided that when I got this idea, my wife had also been doing this other business with me, and she had learned the other skills, and she had saw how passionate I became about helping other men. It's just different, man. When you help a man change his life or change his mindset around his life and his health and fitness, and he actually sees those results, like, you're not only impacting him, but you're impacting his house, his children, his employees, his employer. Like, and I realized, like, damn, that's really fulfilling when I did that. All the placements I had made, hundreds over the years, I never got that sort of feeling. And so I decided I wasn't going to be this or that. I was going to be this and that, right? I was going to be this headhunter, but I was also going to help the men of those businesses that were running those businesses make sure that they dialed in their health and nutrition and had the right mindset and accountability to do that with a system. And so that was the problem I was going out to solve when I launched Dad Bod Sculptors. And I started that last July. My wife said, "Hey, I got the business. You manage the inbound side of it, and I'll run the searches. Go and do this." So she gave me the blessing, and so then I launched it. And my whole premise the first 6 months was just to build the following. I had never had an Instagram account. I had never had a YouTube account. All my business was over the phone. It was inbound. So all this was new skills I had to go acquire. I had to learn the platform, learn how to make content, learn how to get in front of a camera, learn what type of messaging and value I could give to them. And so I spent 6 months just building this following through my content. And then eventually, as I did that, I started recognizing, like, what were the things that I needed on my journey that would have made it a lot easier to collapse time. Like, it took me 3.5, 4 years. What were the things that I would have needed in the first month that could have collapsed that in 12 weeks, right? And really given me all the tools to make this a lifestyle change, not just a short-term summer shredding program. And so that's what I built when I built Dad Bod Sculptors. It was really based around personalization at for 1-to-1 for men that were just like me, busy men that didn't have 2 hours to commit to a gym, couldn't be in there 7 days a week. I don't train 7 days a week anymore. And also had little but minimal time to do some food prep, but could do it on their own. They didn't need their spouse to execute this for them. This was all because I did it on my own. And so I started just kind of focusing on that. Here's how I would do training. Here's how I would do nutrition. Here's how I would do supplementation. Here's how I would do cardio, right? Here's how I would hold them accountable. Here's how I would make sure that they're progressing every single week so that they believe that their effort is producing fruit. And so all of that came in the form of my content. My content then created this inbound where I became the number one guy on LinkedIn for coaches within 1 year. And now Instagram as well. Like we're very niched in what we do. It's men over 35 that are busy, that generally have more money than time. And so they come to me, and that's how we scale, is through my content and people saying, hey man, that's me. Like the dude you're describing, that's where I'm at. And so then it becomes a really good natural fit for us.
It's very cool. And I would imagine that, that niche, right? The niche, riches are in the niches, as they say, right?
Yeah.
And so your niche is 35 plus. They have more money than they have time. So you're going after a pretty probably well established individual. What does your price point look like? If I'm looking, like, are you doing month contracts? You're doing 6 months? How do you measure your pace of goals for your clients? And then what are you using to track those goals?
So we're using a couple of different metrics. Like every client checks in weekly. So at first I had just 1-to-1 where it was ranging anywhere from 3, 6, or 12 months. And that can range anywhere from 3K to 10K. And that's 1-to-1 service. And then I realized on Instagram that there were a lot of men on there that couldn't afford that price point. And so for them, we created a group coaching program where we can help these men at scale and still give them that 1-to-1 service where they've got access to me on a daily basis. I can still do their check-ins on a weekly basis. And I also put them in a group so that they're surrounded by other men that are on the same journey. And so that feeds each other. And so that price point can be anywhere from $299 a month. And then it goes $750 for 3 months, $1,299 for 6 months, or $2,000 for the year. We're about to raise those prices, but that's where they're at now. And so that's a group coaching program. So those are our 2 different programs. But all of them get personalization. We still build their meal plans. We still do their training plans. We still hold them accountable on a weekly basis. In those weekly basis, we're looking at their weight. We're looking at their body fat. We're doing calibrations on how well they recovered, how well they slept, how well they digested, what their pump was like, all these different things that they're giving me on check-ins. And then I spend my weekends every Saturday and Sunday doing all these check-ins personally. So they're working directly with me. It's not another coach. It's not anybody else other than me. So I'm literally doing that for every single client. And I'm giving them feedback because it's important for me, Ben, that they know somebody, one, cares, right, about the discipline and the work that they did, and two, that they're still tracking well, right? Because guys tend, if we do 3 or 4 weeks of something because we're busy and we're like, I'm not seeing the results. I don't even know if this is fucking working or not. Like, screw this. What's the discipline for? Why the fuck am I getting up early? I don't need to be going to the gym. My body's not changing. But if I give them results with first week, second week, third week, they're like, damn, I'm only putting in 60, 70, 80% to this deal. And I'm getting these results. Imagine if I start getting that compliance up. So every time they start tightening the compliance, the results start getting better. And that's when they start becoming a lot more interested and put a lot more energy behind it. And that's the beauty of it, right? So I make sure every week we're getting that progress. And if they give me a weight every day and it doesn't move for 4 days, I'm checking in like, brother, what's going on? Compliance issue or plan issue, right? Ah, man, I fell off track. Thank you for checking in. All right, what are we going to do today? Right? Like right on them. And it's like, and every single time they're like, man, thank you for doing that. Right? Because that's how men fall off. It's just very easy. We got so many other things going on. So when they know every Friday they got to take that picture and send it to Dane, and he's going to give them some honest feedback. I got clients that are like, you know how many fucking cookies I didn't eat this week because I knew I had this check-in. so that's how we do it.
That's very cool, man. So, what is your goal for like the scaling of the company? It sounds like you're looking to scale a little bit. And also another question: how many men or people out there, men and women, really do want something like this? Like how like is it like 1 out of every 3 people is like actually looking for something like this?
I don't know that number, man. I'm focused on the right people. I always tell people I don't need more clients. I turn a lot of clients down. I need more success stories. I need more men that have enough pain that want to get across that bridge and need the solution. I got the blueprint. I got the playbook. I'm going to give it to you. I'm literally going to give you exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it, what to eat, when to eat, how much of it to eat. Scheduled into your scale, like this time, this food, this training, this day, this long, this car, every fucking thing is laid out for them. You got to do it. So I don't need more people like, oh, I can get a meal plan for $80 in Miami. Then go get a fucking meal plan for $80 in Miami, right? Come back in 3 months and tell me how well that meal plan worked for you. Like, those aren't my dudes, right? My guy's like, I don't have the time, dude. If I'm going to commit an hour, like I need you to tell me what to do. Like, and I need to make sure that I'm getting the results. Got you. I got the playbook, right? You give me your commitment, I'll give you the results. And those are the guys I'm looking for. So I don't worry about the masses at all. I actually there's too many people that are looking for the shortcut. They don't want to go through that process of investing in themselves because they don't want to ask the tough questions about themselves, right? Generally, people know the problem because they created the problem and they don't want to admit that. So the guys I'm looking for are me. Like, when I recognize I'm the problem, right? That was the step one. Like, I'm the problem here. So I knew the solution was fixing me. And most of the guys that come to me know I'm the problem. Like, you'll hear things like, what's the issue? I eat whatever the hell I want. I got no discipline. I sleep late. I have no fucking compliance in my life. Like, all right, man. Well, that's the first step, right? So those are the people that when I find them, where we lock and load. It's a no brainer. There's no selling ever.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
I like that approach. I think I like that approach a lot. Honestly, I feel I didn't get to go. I've been in meetings since 7 o'clock this morning. So I mean, I've been back to back for like the last 5 hours, something like that. And this podcast is like a good. I mean, I was gonna go work out anyway, but it's another like good reminder, like, hey, go get your ass to the gym. So
Do it.
hopefully somebody else that's listening to this is like, man, these motherfuckers are just talking about going to the gym. I'm gonna go to the gym. Like, what the fuck am I doing? It's like, yeah, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like,
That's right.
get your ass up and get to the gym.
That's right.
Like, just show the fuck up. Even if it's just for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Just go for a little bit. Listen to the podcast. Hang out.
That's
I don't
right.
know. It's like, go talk to some girls if that's what you're into. I don't know. Just like, like whatever gets you go to the gym, just get your ass moving and do something good for yourself.
That's right. Yeah, like, treat yourself, man. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like you have to be selfish in order to be selfless. Like, if you want to serve the people around you, you got to be in the best state of mind. You got to be at the highest level of frequency. You got to feel good about who you are, right? And you got to be the person that you would listen to if you want other people to listen to you. And so anytime you have that negative voice, it's like, nah, you literally have to man up and just shut that bitch voice up. Like, I'm always talking shit to myself. A lot of the ways that I'm speaking here is the way that I had to speak to myself throughout this journey. You know, like, quit being a bitch. You're a whiny little child. Like, enough is enough. You know, you think your wife wants to sleep with you, you baby fucking ass. Like, like, man up. And these were the conversations that I had to have because I started to realize, like, I was a fucking baby. I started to become this whiny little bitch and picking fights with my wife. And it was like, this is the shit that I'm like subjecting my kids to. Mom and dad fighting in the morning before they go to school over some stupid shit that dad's insecure about or doesn't feel good about. And he's just blaming mom for all these little things, And I realized, like, no, man, habits. Somebody had said this to me a long time ago, and I recognized it was so true because I thought about all the experience in my life. But habits aren't taught, they're caught. Like, you could tell kids to do all this, but until they do what they see. And so that was it. It was like, I'm going to show them that this is what dad does, and it's a non-negotiable for me. And all the kids in my neighborhood, it's like Sandlot in my neighborhood, right? My boys are 8 and 5, and there are probably 12 kids that are between 5 and 9 years old. And every single Saturday and Sunday, they're in our home gym doing exercise. If you go on my Instagram, you'll see it at times. They're all working out. That, Mr. Dane, will you come in and watch our push-up contest? Will you watch our pull-up contest? And it's like, it's just inspiring to see that they've seen my life, and now they all incorporate that interest every Saturday where they're training. We're gonna go train. Not we're gonna they identify it's their training, And clients do that. That clients always tell me that after they've been committed for 60 days. They're like, you're not going to believe it. My kids want to eat what I'm eating. You know, I've dozens of pictures of clients taking pictures of their kids' food. They're like, the kid likes egg whites and spinach. Doesn't make any sense. You
That's
know, and
good
I'm
stuff.
like, bro, it's because he wants to be you, you know?
Yeah.
So that's
Cool.
that's the power of it. It's less about the vanity of it, and it's more about just who you show up for them.
I think a lot of the mental talk that I have during my workouts is just like, hey, you got another one. Like it's encouraging shit for me. And so whenever I leave the gym, um, it's a good reminder whenever I confront a specific obstacle that I'm like, man, I really don't want to fucking do this. I really don't want to. Like yesterday I was doing split jerks, just working on overhead press splits. And so and in the middle of it is like, man, I really don't want to take this rep, but you know what? Like, take a moment, take a deep breath, get yourself under the bar, and stop thinking about it. Just get under
Yeah,
it and just get it done.
that's
And
right.
so whenever I approach some stuff like things inside my business life, it's, hey, do I really want to post a post today? No. Take a breath, just post it, stop thinking about it, move on, and
That's
do it
right.
again, and do it again, and do it again. And now, I've done it. I've done 5 sets of 10 posts. Over the week. Now, I'm better at posting. Who would
That's
have
right.
guessed? You know?
Yeah, and that comes from the reps in the gym. You know, when you get the
Yeah.
mindset of doing the reps in the gym. Same thing with me, man, because remember, I was super insecure. Like that, the pain of my insecurity is what was the catalyst of this whole movement for me. And then I realized it wasn't about me. Now I've helped hundreds of other men, and it's less about me. It's more about showing up for them and showing them that I stay the course. Right. But it was in doing the reps that when I decided to do this business, and my wife's like, well, you got to get on Instagram. It was like the fear of God was put in me. I was like, that means I got to fucking turn on a camera and start talking into it because I'm starting to go on Instagram. I'm like, this is all like people taking their shirts off and filming themselves. Like this is completely foreign to me, right? But I was like, well, just like the gym, right? Like I remember the gym being a big scary place, even when I was training for 3 months. But what I did, one day led to another day, one set led to another set, right? A couple of sets led to a workout, and so it was like get in the reps, fail forward. So I literally told my wife, I don't want you being around me. I don't want you seeing me fail at this because it's going to be super uncomfortable and I'm probably going to get agitated a lot until I get it right because that's just how I am. So I was like, take the kids and go to Florida for 2 weeks. I'm going to set the account up and I'm gonna figure out how to make one of these videos. And by the time you come back, I'm gonna put things out. And she came back, I had like 3,000 followers, and I put out like 12 pieces of content. I was like, every day I'm gonna put out a piece of content, and I just did, and it was uncomfortable. But every time I did one of them, I was like, all right, I got it done. You know, it was like, I did it. And then the next day, same uncomfortability showed up. It was like, all right, well, you did it yesterday. You're going to do it today. And I remember if I did it in the gym, I can do it here, right? If I squat 235 100 times in the gym, I could fucking turn a camera on for 60 seconds and speak into it. And so that's how like the gym thing, it transfers to so many other things. Like I started this business because of the reps I did in the gym when I didn't want anybody looking. But it led to this place of like, no, man, now there's a bigger purpose for you. There's a bigger mission for you. And that led to like this whole business being come. Like I should have just been a headhunter for the rest of my life in that business. Like I thought that was it. Like this was never ever anywhere close to my whatever you want to call it, my world that I had ever envisioned creating. But as I got to this place, I knew like the mission's bigger than the man. Like there are a lot of men that need this, and I need to be able to take this test that I had and be a testament for them.
I think remembering the idea of reps for the social media part is a big one for me, and I think saying it out loud is helpful as a good reminder, and I can make a commitment to myself to make sure that I'm posting more and doing these things because honestly, sometimes I feel like that's the hardest part about the business, like writing the programming, do all that kind of stuff is like that's butter. I know how to do that stuff. I've been
Yeah,
trained. I know how to do stuff for years for myself. Now I can do it for other people, and that's awesome. But being able to reach the people that need it. Is probably is the first step, right? And so if
yeah,
I can't get that step right, then I could be the best program writer in the fucking world, and that wouldn't matter for shit if I can't help anybody. So
that's right.
it's a good reminder for me to shut up and get posting, Ben. Get posting.
Yeah, man, do it, man. Because listen, the people that hire you and the people that follow you, they like your programming, but the people more likely they like your life, right? And when you turn that camera on, a coach had told me one time, he said, when you turn that camera on, you speak with confidence. They're not buying. Nobody wakes up and says, I need another coach and another program and another workout today. Nobody ever says that. But when they turn something on and they see something in your life, and in that example, it's us turning the camera on and speaking into it with confidence, they want that. They want Ben's confidence. They want to exude what you have because they don't have that. And then they look at, oh, well, these are the other things he has in his life. So that's why he has that confidence. So go tap into that mindset. Like that was a big shift for me. It was like, all right, yeah, like I'm not going to prevent this message from being shared because of Dane. Like Dane's gotten a lot of problems and gets in the way of a lot of things. I need to just remove Dane from this and just get to the people of like who needs to hear this and how do they need to hear it, and becoming that person that you needed, right? And you need still every day. If you're always trying to create the person that you need most in your life, I think that then it became a lot easier for me.
I think finding help, I think, is one of the best things, and I think coaches are. I feel like it's for whatever reason a growing industry, or maybe it's because I'm surrounded by a bunch of coaches, and that's just kind of I'm in an echo chamber to some degree. But it's I hired a business coach recently, and having somebody else that's on your side that's looking to support you and making sure like little things. It's like, hey, either have you read this book, or hey, have you thought about charging this way? Have you thought about sending invoices to entrepreneurs this kind of way to help dampen their tax load?
Yeah.
Like just somebody else to give you a little bit of help that ultimately makes you into a better person. And so you're down the road and you're like, man, now I can help other people, not just in the health and fitness space, but I can help other entrepreneurs that are also in business that I can also fix. Like I understand what it's like to try to be in health and fitness and try to run a business. Like it's tough, and so this is how we're going to go about it.
Yeah.
And so you can speak that language, and it resonates a lot easier.
For sure, man. I've always hired coaches in every business I've ever had. And it always came down to I had massive conviction in myself. I always had belief if I had the right information, I can do what they were doing. I can get to where they were. So I always found somebody that was where I wanted to be. And a lot of I had to put it on credit cards. I had to call friends and be like, yo, I need $5,000 for what? To pay bills? No, I need to hire this coach. Like, what are you waiting on $5,000? I'm like, yeah, I just trust me. I need it. Like, I'm going to get an ROI. I need 90 days to pay you back. I need $5,000 to pay this coach. I got to make this happen. When I have this information, I will be able to get the ROI I need. And I like
Yeah.
literally that's how much confidence I've had in hiring the right coach, because I know they're going to collapse time. They're going to see shit that will take me years to see and get a lesson from. And I don't have that time. Right. So that's that micro urgency that I talk about. Like getting coaches, they collapse, the right coach collapses time for you. And if they're invested in you, like they are going to give you so many golden nuggets. I've never found a coach that didn't have a huge ROI for me. I've never looked at it as an expense. It's always been like, I'm gonna 5x, 10x with this easy. Like it's always been a big ROI for me. And still,
I think
I always have coaches.
Yeah, I think like if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have been so skeptical about a business coach, but I was so in it for, a fitness coach. And then I started running my own businesses and I was like, shit, I need help. Like like it's the same idea
Yeah.
as trying to do, I need a fitness coach, or I need, if I was trying to get more into powerlifting. Well, you go find a powerlifting coach and then they make you so much better infinitely faster. And
Yes.
then you go find a business coach and you're like, oh, it's the same idea. If I invest in myself to become a better business person by finding somebody that can help me get there,
Yes.
then I've now shortened my timeline by what, like half at
Way.
least,
Yeah. It's
like it's crazy.
it's so worth it. Yeah. That's also like when you say like how many people are out there. It's such a small percentage, my buyer, because so many people are so small minded. They look at things as an expense. They don't believe in themselves. They haven't bet on themselves. They've been telling themselves they were going to do things for so long and they've never followed through on it. So they don't believe in themselves. Their partners don't believe in them. And they're passing that on to their children. Like they don't realize if they don't fix their demons and show that they believe in themselves, then you're going to raise children that don't believe in themselves, that are going to have the scarcity mindset. They're going to be fear based. You're just passing that along. And that's like totally irresponsible to me. I'm like, you got to fix the problem. Whether your parents probably didn't have coaches. So if you don't have coaches and you're not looking to always get the best and most efficient information to advance your life, then guess what? Johnny and Jill are going to be the same fucking people, same kids, same path. And that's what you're setting them up for. And that's on you. you know, and it's like, oh, you can't say that. Well, I just did, you know, like you got to
That's
be
the
able to tell
fucking
them.
truth.
It's the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah. All right, Dane. Well, I'm fucking motivated to go work out, and
Go
before
get
my
it,
next
bro.
meeting, I'm gonna go ahead and head out that way. So where can people find you, Dane?
Yeah, man. If it's Instagram, you're seeing this, it's dadbod_sculptors. If you just want to go to a website, it's www.dadbodsculptors, all one word.com. And on there, you'll see me, my story, my successes, all my other social media, my YouTube, my Instagram, my LinkedIn. So that's probably the best place is my website, dadbodsculptors.com. Really simple landing page. And you can contact me directly from there.
Beautiful. All right. So if you guys want some no bullshit training for dad bods for 35 plus, obviously you heard it here. Dane is the guy to go to. Stop fucking around. Go get your shit in shape and go find yourself a coach, business or health and fitness. You know, go find somebody. You can also find me, you know, Ben Nevadas on Instagram, and you guys can just find me there. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. Love y'all. Dane, I appreciate it, brother.
You got it,
Take
man.
care.
Thanks for having me, bro.
And of course, man. We'll see you soon.
Bye bye.
Cheers. Thanks, guys. Love you. Bye.